You ever had that thing where you want to fix something really bad, a specific thing, but every time you think about it, it just makes you angry because every time you try to fix it, nothing works. Nothing ever works. I think everyone has one. For me, this is it. Right here. This one. It doesn't want to be fixed. Every time I work on it, it doesn't do anything. So today, we're going to figure out how to fix it. This right here is my sand rail. And this thing right here is hand built by yours truly. So this thing has a lot of issues and it is not done yet, and it has been several years since it has gotten to this point. And I really want to, I want it to work. I really want it to work, but every time I try to work on it, it doesn't like it. It doesn't like me working on it. So today I'm going to do my best and give it another shot to try and figure out what's wrong with it. So what happens is when I start it, I'm not going to start it right now because I have some things off, but when I start it, it starts just fine, idles, no big deal. But eventually when I try to drive it, it'll rev up to something like 2,500 RPM, maybe sometimes it gets to 3,000, but that's it. It only revs to there and it starts popping and banging, kind of like it has two-step or something going on. And as soon as it does that, it like loses all power. It heats up really fast, and it's kind of annoying because when you build something, you kind of want to use it. So I'm going to make another attempt. I do this like every 6 months. I finally decide to like try and figure it out again. So here we go. Hopefully this time doesn't end in total disaster like all the other times have. Today I have an idea. I'm going to pull the valve cover off and I'm going to look at the cam timing because this is not the stock cam. This is a cam that I got from the machine shop that they had laying around. It fits this engine, but I don't know if the cam timing is on correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take all of this stuff off and get down to the cam, and I'll talk to you then. The way I'm going to check the cam is I'm going to turn the crank over with this, I'm a mechanic all day. You think I'd know what this thing is called, a freaking ratchet. And use this ratchet to turn the crank over really slow, and I'm going to watch where or when the exhaust and intake open with relation to the piston. Okay, so the reason that I used this welding wire and marked it with a Sharpie is now I have a visual representation of everything that goes on in the cylinder. So this line here, this is bottom dead center, so that when the piston goes down, that's the very bottom. That's right before it starts going back up. That's the lowest it'll go. Now this line right here, that is top dead center. Same thing, but at the top, that's the right at the top, right before it starts going down. So as I'm going through the cycle, so at top dead center right here, oops, see if I can make this focus a little bit. So at top dead center right here, this top line, nothing's happening. But you come down just a hair, right there is where the intake, where it opens. That's where the intake valve opens. And so for this whole distance, the intake valve is open. Now this line is where it closes, but it doesn't close before the bottom. What happens is it goes from this line all the way down, and then the piston starts coming up, and right there is where the valve is fully seated, fully closed, and where I'm pretty sure it would seal. Whoops. So that to me seems like an issue. I think that should close before the bottom, similar to this, before it gets to bottom dead center. And same thing with the exhaust valve. So what happens is, so the intake closes, it has its compression stroke, its power stroke, and it comes down, and it starts coming up, and right here is where, well, either, I can't remember, somewhere in here, probably right here, is where the exhaust valve starts opening. So it starts opening as it's going up. Now, it pushes all the exhaust out through this stroke here, and it gets to top dead center, but that's not where it closes. It comes down just a hair, and that's where the exhaust valve closes, which I think is weird. I don't know about anybody else, but I think that's not the way it should be. So I'm going to try and see if that is really the issue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all this front accessory drive, all these wires and these covers and everything off, and this is a timing belt motor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the cam in place, or actually I'm going to hold the crank in place, and I'm going to slip the belt off and figure out which direction it needs to go, and then I want to move it over either way one tooth, just one tooth, and then turn it over again, make sure none of the valves hit. If it seems better to me, I'm going to put it all back together and I'm going to run it, and if that helps, then that was the issue. But gotta tear this whole front apart first. Alright, with all that stuff off, you can see the whole timing belt. So right here, that's the cam timing mark. So that needs to line up with this. The other way you can do it is, if you don't have that, you can line it up, find a piece of string, go from center of this bolt to center of that bolt, and it should be right there. What we're going to do is we're going to keep this side of the belt tight, and then I'm going to turn the cam one tooth this way, so this will end up over here, and that should be where we want to keep it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ratchet, turn the motor over, and see if it looks better than it did before. Alright, so you can see the timing belt is tight now. This mark here used to point to there. Now it is one tooth over, which means I move the camshaft this way, advancing the timing one tooth in the camshaft. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back together, which is just the reverse of what we just did, and we'll see if it'll start. Alright, it's all put together. Everything is back to the way it was before I started doing this. And this is so, oh, it's like so nerve-wracking because I really want it to work, but I've been disappointed by it so many times that I'm kind of skeptical. So, but one thing I'm going to do before we actually start it is I'm going to do a compression check, just to make sure that changing the timing didn't make it lose compression, because if it did that, then we've got to tear it back apart and put it back to how it was. So I'm just going to do that real quick and I'll show you guys the results. I would say that's some dang good compression. Whew, man, I'm so nervous. Alright, let's throw the plug in and crank it over with fuel going to it. Oh my gosh, my heart is like racing. Fuel pump on. Moment of truth. Looks like it's right there, so I'm going to grab the spout and put it back in. I think it worked. That thing it sounds better than it was before. It sounds like it anyways. It kind of has a weird clatter, but I would say that is like a half success, because I can't really totally tell for sure if it fixed it just by it sitting here. What I can do is in the next couple of days I can pull it out and take it for a spin up the block and see if that actually fixed it, because it's more so under loaded conditions that it actually kind of does that. So, but that's gonna have to be another video. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, drop a like down below. Please subscribe if you like what you're seeing and see this thing go for a ride in a few days or something. Anyway, thank you guys. Stay happy, stay healthy, and keep surviving out there.